Awesome. Well, welcome to the second call about Heartland. Heartland is just such a magnificent, it's like an energetic and a place. And it's just changed my life so much. And so I'm so excited to share it with you, a little bit here, a little bit there. And we start the program on April 15th. It's an 8-week activation and teaching sequence. And some of you have been following along and reading the posts about consumption and lack. And so while I'm doing a little bit of an introduction, what I'd love to ask is those of you that are on the live call, please type into the chat, what about Heartland is most speaking to you or intriguing to you, or what are you most curious about, or what do you have questions about right now that maybe I can answer today on the live call. So I actually just got off a podcast interview. I love the timing of the Sacred Remembering podcast. There's always like something that is realized or happens. And I was talking with a stone medicine practitioner, and we were talking about feminine and masculine, and they have very much studied with Indigenous elders, and they were talking about bringing back right relationship with land and resources. And what they communicated to me was so much an alignment with Heartland, because I've been talking about women's resources and the earth's resources, and we are going to come back into right relationship with things like money and resources, and even the feminine principle and the masculine principle, because we know that we've got a lot of healing there to do, in order to be open to receiving and that kind of thing. But Heartland is really very different from other like manifestation teachings and things like that. And it's really it's very, very different, and causing me to quite honestly call BS on a lot of other teachings, because I think women that are coming back into unity consciousness, coming back into sacred remembrance of your soul, of your mission on the planet. We need to be, I'm going to say it like this, like, I don't know if it's the right words or not, but like a high caliber program, because this requires our integrity. This requires our integrity in a way that's very different from like, okay, I've been healing my, sacred feminine, on my hands out, like, when's the sacred masculine or God or whomever going to just like fill it up for me? And I'm exaggerating here, but it's like, come on, why isn't it working already? Why aren't I like receiving already? Why, aren't I a good little feminine yet? Like all of these things. And it's like, no, sister, we are new world leaders, and our magic inside of us it is the wisdom and the frequency that will change and guide our way in the new earth. And so, all of my work, those that are on the call with me here know that all of my work is about owning this sacred truth of who we are and trusting that remembrance. And the remembrance is, it's many things, it's truth, but to trust that and to walk forward and to align with that, our prosperity consciousness is in alignment with that very thing. And I've talked about this in other places in preparation for Heartland, but it is the separation of, us thinking that we're separate from the sacred or separate from God itself, like anything like that, is what causes the consciousness of lack. So I asked you to put into the chat what attracted you to this call or to Heartland in general. What's drawing me in is wanting to heal my fear about not being resourced if I step into who I am, or just losing resources in general because of 3D life circumstances. Thank you for sharing. And so today you're right in the right place, because today we're going to talk about the fear of loss, or the fear of not having, and how that actually causes some contraction in the nervous system. So in Heartland, we're going to be looking at a couple of components. I think I can put it in four. And we start in this order, in the order of the 8 weeks. We're looking at the nervous system. And we're actually practicing some specific meditations. If you've listened to the Heartland meditation or to the call recording from 318, it's those kinds of meditations, but I'll be giving them all to you. And we are working on creating a new normal, I'll say, in our nervous system. Okay, because the nervous system has to be able to hold the frequencies that we're going to introduce. So then we're going to be looking at the lack, consumer stories and programs, and deleting a lot of those, and doing a lot of behavioral change or adjustment, which is required in order for us to get real about our own relationship with resources and consumption. And I've talked about that elsewhere. I talked about Heartland in the Sacred Remembering podcast, episodes 67 and 70. And also there's a Heartland meditation. So there's information out there. So if you haven't listened to those 2 podcast episodes, go listen to that. And I talk a lot about the consumption lack. Then we're going into the unified heart. Okay, so we're going into, when I say unified heart, I'm talking about feminine and masculine together. And there's, as we'll talk about today, there's so much inherent trauma related to being a woman and acquiring resources. And so we have this gender related trauma that has so far impacted how we relate to resources and resource acquisition, and prosperity. And do we trust that we can have it? All of those actually have a little gender bent to them. And so then when we've cleared that, we're also connecting, and we're doing this the whole way through, we're connecting to these earth frequencies, and through this lens of integrity, of having cleared this and coming into right relationship with resources, then we're ready to actually get some codes, I'll say, some new information about how to actually manifest. Because if we are in greed, if we are in consumption, the women that I am talking to in this realm, you would not be attracted to this program if this were not true for you. The women in this realm, you will reach your prosperity and your wealth in alignment with the truth of who you are, because that's who we came to be, but also through integrity. And by integrity, it's like integrity to yourself as well. Like, you are not inherently poor. You are not inherently, like a paycheck to paycheck. You are not inherently those things. And so we're coming into a greater capacity to understand that we are wealth itself, we are prosperity itself, but we don't want to be greedy about that. Okay. And if we're like in consumption and lack agenda, then we can actually be really greedy. And those are like lower frequencies that we don't want to perpetuate anymore. But if we're in trauma brain about it, we're just unconsciously perpetuating those. So I have another comment I'm going to read. I've been investing so much into myself, and it's starting to feel more like consuming, like I've been consuming self-care rather than using it to move forward. Does that make sense? That makes so much sense. because okay, we can invest in perpetual self-care because we think something's wrong with us. Or we can consciously invest in, investments, programs, education that will move us forward. And we do have to ask ourselves, like, which is which? Did I sign up for this big business coach because I believed I couldn't have this and I wanted her life instead of my life? Or did I sign up for this big business coach because, no, for real, I want these modalities and I want to change in this space, and I know that we change when we're in each other's energy, so we need to ask ourselves questions like that for sure. And then begin to trust ourselves more and more and more. That is someone who works as a coach and somebody who like activates movement forward for a living. I would say, I'm always doing both. I'm like trusting myself more and working with that next level mentor. So yeah, because we're not meant to do this in isolation. Like we're not meant to do this thing. Like we're meant to live our soul's journey, but yeah, we spread and seed the consciousness together. So yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for sharing. So, fear of running out and the nervous system. As I was sitting down to think about what was going to come through for today, and it was this clear, like this fear of running out. And looking at this from a historic perspective, it's like no wonder women fear running out, because in the last 10,000 or so years, it's like resources were primarily coming through men for a long time. With like the buying and selling of goods and land and resources and things like that. I mean, women were, you don't need me to go into a big history lesson here because we know it, and I've said it before, but women were denied access to resources as a systemic program, like as a part of the patriarchal agenda, to keep women suppressed and to keep women obedient, things like that. I think that we can all probably think of a woman, like mother, grandmother, aunt generation that made massive sacrifices because of resource allocation and access to resources. And so this thing of being in the truth of who we are and aligning to our soul and saying yes to resources that come through integrity, huge, huge. And I would say like ahead of its time a little bit. Okay. Like we're the way showers right here. So, because we're not also talking about like a masculine orientation of, well, nobody's providing for, it for me, and so I'm going to go do it myself. Because we all also know the stories of like single mothers having to do it themselves, or, like really high achieving women who was like, I can't trust anybody else to provide this for me, and so I'm just going to have to provide it myself. And I definitely held that energetic and that expression in my marriage. I had this animosity toward my then husband that was like, well, if you're not going to earn it, I'm going to have to earn it. Right. So I was like the mother, the breastfeeding mother, the, organic cooking all weekend mother. Meanwhile, like going to school and making more money and like trying to do it all. And then, we also have this collective, like, I've just been really deep in some of these collective gender dynamics this week and talking with various women. And, there's this myth of like, if you just surrender, all the things will come to you. And I'm like, but we're women who have these histories, and these histories are written in ourselves. And so to just, give up the job or give up to trust fully, first of all, it's not even possible in the somatic system, because the body's like, what? That's a trauma thing. Like, to surrender completely means that I'm not going to have my needs met. That's what the dialogue is in many, many women's minds, through lived experience, through epigenetic history, that to surrender could mean to lose. And I know for me in this lifetime, like I've been, which I shared openly on the episode 67 of the podcast, like I have been, practicing some of that surrender and like, being in receptivity with the masculine. But because we're humans with shadow and history, it's like, to rely on that for your resource and your safety, a lot of times it gets really, really, really messy. So I'm not someone who's going to be like, all we have to do, ladies, is just surrender and everything shows up for us. It's like, heck no, we have to be with this reality that there is a visceral, somatic, cellular fear response programmed in women about running out of resources. And I have some comments here. Fear of not being resourced if I step into my truth, being abandoned. Yes. Yeah. And then going into debt, So yeah, we've got some misconceptions in our culture. And as an entrepreneur, I lived and walked some of those misconceptions. That's why I feel very strongly about teaching some of these lessons forward. So yeah, so being with the truth of who you are and being with the cultivation of your own safety. And, it's like on the cellular level, on the somatic body level, like how are you meeting yourself in these places of fear? Then we're also, everyone on this call is mixing in some, new consciousness. And I'll say even like magic, like practical, real magic, that we are getting this new information about what it looks like to live in this new world where women are not fearful, where women are resourced. And so Heartland is a journey into, well, what does that look and feel like? Um, yeah. Okay. So what I want you to, what I want to invite you to do, and we're not traumatizing anyone right here. Like, I'm going to ask you to feel in your body, and you can close your eyes if you'd like. Maybe put your hand on your heart. So, you're having this external resource of touch, but go ahead and in a quiet moment, feel what it feels like to fear not being resourced if you step into your truth, or if you're alone, or just because you're a woman. Notice what the breath does and where the body clenches, where it falls or becomes smaller. You can notice what happens. Do you flood and think, oh my gosh, this is so scary? Do you somebody hopped off the call, so like maybe that was too much for someone right there. I'm trusting. I'm laughing because I'm trusting that that's not true. But do you want to run away from it? Do you like how is it to be with yourself in the space of I'm afraid of running out? Is there a compulsion to quickly go toward consumption? I know that's true for me. If I feel a fear of lack, I immediately consume more. And I noticed this arise when I moved this last time into my apartment. There was like this large kitchen pantry, and there was there was space in the kitchen pantry. And what I did was, and some of this was subconscious, but I was also just watching myself with the patterns of consumption and lack. Because I've been noticing and noticing all of these things as I've been in these Heartland energies. And the compulsion was to buy in bulk and to have like everything I needed, especially since we're in a pandemic. And it was like, if I go into fear about like, well, is the grocery store going to run out of food? Or, this was a bit ago, but I'm not, that's not an active fear now. But, I noticed that I began buying like almost to fill the pantry. Like I bought yesterday, I still did it yesterday. Well, also because I don't want to go to the store all the time, but I bought 5 cans of my favorite coconut milk, whereas I would usually buy 2. And, it's like, okay, yeah, I saved myself some time and energy not having to go back to that store. But like, it's this, well, what's going on in me that it like needs to be filled? Right. So these are the kinds of questions. It's not judgments, it's questions and observations. Um, like how many of a certain product do you need to have? How many of a certain like article of clothing do you need to have? How many months do you have to have like money in the bank for? All of these things. It's like just observing the propensity to like, where do you contract? And then usually right there, there is an impulse to consume. Because if we fear that we're going to run out and we fear that we're going to be in lack, then we like the subconscious wants to ensure that we're not in lack. So very, very normal human behavior, and then we have these layers of like woman, patriarchy, previous experience of maybe not having what we needed, or our mothers or our grandmothers had that experience. And so we inherit this. Oh yeah, thanks. And there's a comment too about actually consuming food, for sure. And so if we feel, a lack in the body, like hunger, we want to eat, but also a lack emotionally, consuming and actually consuming the food can be a way to cope with that lack. And so it's like when you notice yourself consuming anything, and we're going to do this in Heartland, like what are you consuming? What's the propensity to consume? And then being with it, not judging, not like changing your life in a minute, right? But being with it. And I can just attest to you that through working with these Heartland energies and through disassembling consumption, I am, the frequencies are so different in me. The frequencies and the fear frequency is nearly unrecognizable compared to like what spiked last fall which I shared in a podcast, so I don't need to share it here. But it was very, very familiar. This was very familiar. And so as I look at it, this is a collective pattern. This is a patriarchal pattern. And it's also a victim victimizer byproduct. So because there has been so much oppression or victimizing, then some of the lack consumer, I would say a lot of the lack consumer has to do with those energetics that keep the patriarchy alive. You know, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose for that kind of system to prevail. What we know is that we don't want that system to prevail. We want something else, and we want to experience, you know, safety and provision in our own lives, in our own energy bodies, in our own field. Not dependent on another, not dependent on even a job, not dependent on a man, right? And this is possible. It's more about the energetics. It's not about, you know, like law of attraction kind of stuff. It is and it isn't. But until we disassemble consumer programming, like disassemble victim victimizer, the nervous system actually can't bring in and hold the prosperity consciousness. So I think it's high time that women stop shaming themselves for, you know, not being able to like succeed in some of these, you know, sacred feminine like ideals that are kind of touted. And I think most of the time they're touted by people that are not actually in prosperity consciousness. And maybe they've come into money, or maybe they had money before. But a lot of the time when I feel into the essence of these teachings, it's in I'm in lack, I want to consume more. I'm in lack, I want to consume more. And so, you know, blessings to everyone walking this path, because it's totally not easy. All right, so we're going to go into some breathing. And through the Heartland, through the 8 weeks, you'll just naturally feel this expansion. And we're working with the nervous system, but we're also working with the earth energies. And so there, you know, we can't do that all here today. And so one thing that I want to highlight before I get started leading this meditation is that oftentimes when there's trauma in the body system, we breathe as if it's like hard work. And if someone says like, okay, start breathing on purpose, you're gonna like really focus on it like it's hard work. So notice if that happens. And then today, I want you to imagine breathing as one movement, your whole entire body, and breathe to, I love that we're on video and I can show you, breathe to the edges of your body by about 3 inches. Okay, like all around, front, back, side to side. Okay, so it's not this hard work of the nervous system. I had a question yesterday in a group about, well, how do we cultivate our safety? You know, how do we not as women continue to self-protect? And part of the answer is, well, we acknowledge the nervous system, but we don't live in a constant like association with the nervous system. And this is a major difference between living from trauma, because when we're living in association with trauma, we're in the nervous system. When we're living in association or in alignment with our truth, we're more embodied. And that can be a process, that's fine. It will be a process. So you're just going to begin to loosen up that nervous system attachment by, you can do it, start it now, breathing. And as you inhale, you expand your conscious awareness to about 3 inches beyond your body. And as you exhale, it deflates. So it's like inhale, Exhale. And here we're opening up sacred space where we're healing on all levels. We're working with the intention of Mother, Father, God, of Source itself, calling Mother, Father, God into this space, the Christos Sophia, to help structure us, heal, hold the energy with and for us. You can call in your individual angels, allies, well ancestors, any benevolent helpers. Yeah, right now we're just breathing to the edges of our body, but the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, it gets energetic real quick. All of those levels work together. So we'll open sacred space and sacred intention here that the healing, any healing that happened here before the highest and best potential good. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so as I'm attuning to the field, just that sacred prayer, those words spoken aloud, shifted the field, and we are um, not just women's bodies with nervous systems thinking about this anymore, but there's an energetic awareness that's at play. And so if you have intentions right here, you can speak them aloud, speak them into the space. And that could be, I intend to experience a deep, full breath today. That could be, I intend to align to my soul's purpose no matter what. I intend to be prosperous and I am on my way. I'm hearing I am prosperity itself. So if there's an I am statement, you can say that here. And I'm reading the group energetic field, those that are on the call and those that'll listen later. And so you might hear me make sounds with my mouth, breath noises, odd sounds, or light language. I might snap. Those are all normal and moving some energy, normal in this space, I guess. Good. So inviting in just the clearing and cleansing now, you can go ahead and notice we're all in different places on the earth grid. We're in different places of the world. So notice your connection to your space, your geographic, your place. In the heartland, we are working with the earth and with the earth energetics and coming back into right relationship here. So here you're establishing this connection, like I'm here, and you could say the name of your place, or you could envision the soil. You might envision a place like very close to you or in your backyard where you know you have a sacred connection. This could even be the backyard. And then as we did in the last call, if you saw that, you can wiggle your toes down into the dirt in an imaginative way. And then, like standing on wet sand at the beach, how it just sinks in. Just imagine that you're connected to place. Very good. Good. And so there's some communication, I'll call it, or some energetic transfer back and forth between the earth. So go ahead and you're still keeping your breathing going. And now you're noticing this. Some of you are a little jolted or surprised or feels odd or something like that. And so take a few breaths to recalibrate. Maybe it's really odd to feel support when we live in our nervous systems and live in the go, go, go. It gets hard to land. And then anything that's heavy, or as we go into this space of increased lightness in the cells, if there's a density at all that needs to be let go of, maybe a density of consumption or a density of fear, you can see if any of it wants to drop into this earth space, and then it falls deep, deep down into the earth and it's recycled. You don't have to know how. It's like, do I want to hold this heaviness anymore, or do I want to experiment with letting go? Very good. Ha, ta, ha. Ha. Just falling off the back body, falling from around the waist. All of the places that we hold this heavy workload as women, let it fall off. Ha. And it also might feel like it's coming from inside your body, like from the womb space or like out from between your legs. You can let that happen. So just notice where you are. Does it feel vulnerable? Does it feel slightly more supported? Maybe both. So one of the pieces that we're going to be working with in Heartland is something that I'm currently calling the etheric placenta. And this is, you can imagine it like a bubble around you that goes from below your feet up to above your head. And you can just feel how far this energy bubble or egg or placenta is from your body. So just intuitively get a sense of that. Because it's always there, by the way, you're not putting it there, you're realizing it's there. Ah, you say, okay. Okay. So just from here, now this might, all sound very strange. I'm just going to ask you to go with it and just explore with it. So if you have this etheric placenta around you all the time, and you've been practicing breathing to the edges of you, now feel what it's like. Maybe it feels like electricity or a low-grade magnetism or something like that. Feel what it feels like between the body and the edge or rim of this bubble placenta. Good. Because there's a space, there's an energetic that's also yours from the edge of your physical body out to the edge of this, the rim of this placenta. Okay, so this is the very first time that we're introducing this. So the consciousness, the mind might be like, what the hell, Sarah? You know, or like, I wanted to do more, or, you know, all these things, right? We're just setting some, it's like setting some intentions or setting some structures. So with the consciousness of this rim, with your feet in place, we're going to open to the possibility of being sourced from this earth energy. And from down below your feet, from the very center of Sophia Gaia, lights up a diamond light frequency, a plasma light. It courses through the planet. It's happy to meet you. It connects to the feet. And what you do is you bring up with a breath that's pretty, it's not forceful, but that's the only word I can think of right now. It's an intentional breath in and up. And you're saying, yes, I'd like to receive this, please. It could also be like that breath that's in the back of the nose and throat in a yoga class. Okay, so, or I don't know if you're hearing that on the video. And as I'm inhaling, I'm bringing the energy up and through my feet, my lower centers, okay? And then it's going to get to the heart. And here's what I want you to do when it gets to the heart. That's where you switch to the exhale. And you're going to let it flow up your upper centers, out the crown of your head, and through the placenta. And the placenta also connects to the ground, right? So you're pulling in these energies to the heart space and then letting them rise with the exhale out the top of head, swirling around you in this bubble back down to the earth, and you go again, you cycle. You could say, well, I don't feel anything. That's okay. You just keep doing it. You might have a little dialogue with the earth, like, hi, I would really love to potentially feel some of these frequencies. The diamond light frequency, the plasma frequency. It's all the same. You can imagine it as water, diamond light water of Sophia Gaia coming up. And expressing as energy through the field. But here's the thing, this is your energetic field, right? You have this rim of this etheric placenta, and the energy stays inside of it. It doesn't leak out into your house. It doesn't leak out into your partner. So this is a way that we're actually combining some etheric practice, some spiritual practice with the body to change the consciousness of matter. This happens over time. But the body that was potentially just self-protecting recently is now experiencing, oh, there's this fluidity of resources that actually stays within my field. And you don't have to try too hard. Actually, if you just relax and do it, it's much better anyway. So we'll do this for a few more moments. And maybe the energetics as they swirl in this bubble in this placenta, maybe they take a movement, a swirl, a fog that fills up every, you know, piece of space. It's like you can play with it a little bit. This is where I am statements or intentions can come back in. I am resourced. I am in communication with the earth's consciousness, which, by the way, is a restoration of the feminine principle. Throughout Heartland, we will work with this restoration of the feminine principle that has been so depleted, and we will also work with the consciousness of the real masculine, the sacred masculine that holds for the well-being of the feminine. You can just imagine that now and notice what you notice. What would it feel like to participate in something life changing without the pressure of self improvement? Like someone had typed earlier in the chat, am I self improving because of consumption? Or am I self improving because it's life giving? Actualization of self is something that we quest for. So, not all bad, right? But so much of the answer lies in the nervous system. Not forgetting the power of intention, the power of speech and prayer. I choose prosperity. I choose magnetism. I choose to be resourced. The fear comes in. I don't know how that'll happen. That just came into the field. So noticing that and letting that go down into the earth with the exhale. Yeah, there's been evidence of worry. There's been reason to be concerned. And in this moment, we're choosing curiosity. What happens when I resource with Sophia Gaia in my own field? This energy, like, is this good enough yet? Am I doing it yet? Is it working yet? Just, it's like bring in grace. Relax into grace. Acknowledge the parts that might be so hypervigilant because it wasn't safe to let your guard down. There. When we acknowledge those parts, there is softening. And that's huge. We don't have to get these things to go away, right? We're not pushing against something to not exist. Everything is as it has been and is. And we're looking at it, breathing with it, saying, is this my truth anymore? We don't have to control the miracles, you know? We don't have to know where everything is going to come from or exactly how we'll be okay. We'll be smart, we'll be strategic. But when we have such tight desire for control, to know where the resources will come from, we don't allow space for anything beyond our own might. When there's a trauma response to the fear of potential loss or lack, trust is almost just about the hardest thing you could ask a person to do. So right here in this moment, in this space, in this etheric placenta, you can just acknowledge both of those things. Yes, there's a fear of lack, and yes, there's a wanting to trust. Wonderful. So you can continue this practice to strengthen your energy body and come out of the association with the nervous system and fear. Um, Begin to just blink the eyes. Notice where you're sitting. Notice what it feels like to sit there. Look down, look around. Look out to the four corners of the room. And take a breath into your diamond heart space. Just maybe putting your hand there and just really trusting in your own capacity. Your capacity to hold resources is huge. Your capacity to be yourself and actually gain more resources by being yourself is huge. Your capacity to give more away joyfully, the more you have, the more you are blessed, you bless others. That capacity is huge. Beautiful. So from here, there's an invitation to sit with a journal and just journal about that capacity, about relationship with resources, about what you would like to see manifest and what fears you would like to see heal. Heartland is on sale now. We begin in 15 days, but I think it's on sale for another 12. And this weekend, I'm giving you all a code in your email to save $100. The program's already really affordable because I want everyone to have access to this new information. And so check your email for the coupon code for $100 off this weekend. And thank you for being here. Thanks for being here live, or thanks for spending your time watching the replay. It's a pleasure to be here with you all and to quest with women who are just so true to their sacred remembering path and their soul's path. So yeah, resources in the hands of women. It is happening. It's going to happen. So much love. Reach out if you have any questions, Sarah@sarahpoet.com, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.